Senator Bernie Sanders recently announced his run this morning on CBS with John Dickerson and also released a campaign video. Now, the campaign video is actually really good, but that's not really the focus here. The focus actually for Senator Sanders is the policies. So now I'm going to talk about those policies that he has come out in favor of, that he's running on for 2020. And this has actually been cataloged by Jeff Stein, writing for the Washington Post. So now he gets the policies right, and then later on he goes into analysis. So let me do my own analysis on this. Now, according to AIDS, Sanders' 2020 agenda is Medicare for all. So Medicare for all, that's the obvious one. He's been pushing for Medicare for all since 2016. He's actually put it on the map. And look, it's got over 70% of support from the American people. It's going to do away with private health insurance and replace it with something better that covers everyone and actually does it cheaper. So that's a no-brainer. Now, something new on here is the Green New Deal and addressing climate change. So Green New Deal, very ambitious climate proposals. No, it doesn't get rid of beef. It doesn't get rid of cars. It's actually a common sense, moderate proposal to do something drastic on climate. And that is, of course, to go carbon neutral by 2030. So that is ambitious, but what we're in right now is that we're in a time where we need to do climate action, bold climate action. We need to do it now. And so what happens is we've got 11 years, and what we need to make happen is policy that really tries to push alternative fuels to get us away from coal, oil, and natural gas. That's what the Green New Deal is going to do, and that's what the aim is. And they want to do so while also creating tens of millions of jobs. So, for example, there's going to be a lot of course, talk about, and there already is, the Democrats are going to take your jobs. They're coal jobs. They're going to be gone. You get a Green New Deal, you're not going to be able to have a job anymore. Because it's going to destroy the coal industry. Now, the truth is the coal industry is dying on its own anyway, due to market forces, the fact that wind power is actually cheaper than coal, and of course we have a natural gas boom. What the Green New Deal is going to do is that it's going to create these industries that are, already growing. Solar is one of the fastest growing industries, despite the fact that there are massive tariffs now on solar panels. If you remove those artificial barriers to solar energy, to getting solar panels, and actually try to invest and incentivize alternative energy, it's going to have massive returns, environmental returns, and also economic returns. You're going to have a lot of people having a lot of really good paying factory jobs creating these solar panels. And right now, unfortunately, we have actually ceded the future to China. So, hey, if you're Donald Trump and you're worried about not being able to economically stack up to China, well, way to go on those solar panels, those solar tariffs, because you actually just hurt your ability to compete with China. So that's what the Green New Deal is doing for. And of course, it's great to see that Bernie Sanders is way behind it. He's standing behind it, I should say, and he's pushing this forward. There's more. $15 minimum wage. We've seen that before. Criminal justice reform. So we'll get into some of the details about that. Free college for public universities, public colleges, universities. That, of course, is standard from 2016. We saw that before. Breaking up the banks. There is no other, I think, other than Elizabeth Warren, but I'm not 100% sure, no other candidate that has said, we're going to break up the banks. We're going to break up the biggest banks so that we don't have a repeat of 2008. Because what happened? Well, we had a giant financial crash. The banks were behind this. They were giving out so-called really crappy deals to people, doing all these derivative swaps and things like that. Crash the economy. So we're just going to break them up into smaller banks so they actually have competition and that they don't pose a systemic risk to the overall economy. All right, there's more. Gender pay equity, paid leave for families, of course, that's great. Lowering prescription drug prices, there's a few ways of actually being able to do that. One way, of course, is to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Another one is to allow cheaper imports of drugs. Both of them were Bernie Sanders sponsored ideas and pieces of legislation. There's more. Expanding Social Security. That's an excellent idea. Saving unions and actually increasing union labor participation. That'd be great. And sponsoring the DREAM Act. So again, that's not all, but a lot of that stuff we saw back in 2016, but there are some new things, right? So now, already, of course, you've got right-wingers out that are going to attack him. They've already attacked the Green New Deal, as I said before, getting rid of cars and planes and, cows. And, oh my God, the liberals aren't going to let us eat meat anymore. Oh my God. That's actually not part of the proposal. There are fake proposals going around on the Green New Deal, but they are, as I said, fake. It's literal fake news. So the Republicans, conservatives, and corporate Democrats, they're already coming hard after these policies. Of course, what you hear from the, establishment Democrats is that we just can't do it. I mean, they're great aspirational ideas, as Amy Klobuchar says, but we can't actually have those. We actually have to be a little bit more pragmatic and a little bit more practical and have Medicare for some, but not all. We can't do that. Okay. Now look, as far as the Green New Deals, you realize it polls at 80%. So this is why the right wing is coming so hard against this policy and a lot of these other policies, which are incredibly popular, even among the conservative base. Now, foreign policy, right? Now, look, Bernie Sanders' foreign policy has always been kind of a weak point, and I pointed that out before. So my hope is that this campaign fleshes out that a little bit more. Now, to give her credit, Tulsi Gabbard actually has more of a foreign policy chops than Senator Sanders. But I do hope, like I said, to see him kind of flesh that out a little bit more. Now, Aides also mentioned that he will be working towards getting more background checks and assault weapons bans. So that's one contention is, Bernie Sanders is too conservative on guns. And now I think he has a failing grade by the NRA. Not only that, but as I said before, he wants to push forward towards background checks. It's extremely popular, 90% support, and an assault weapons ban, which is a lot less popular, to be fair, but it's something that a lot of Democrats have been pushing forward for. Not only that, there's affordable housing. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. As usual, rents continue to rise. Housing prices continue to rise. And that is preventing a lot of people, younger people, from being able to afford homes. There's more. New infrastructure spending. That has been something that not a lot of Democrats have been talking about. But right now, we do have crumbling infrastructure, so it's good that he'll be talking about that. Something interesting is opposing the military-industrial complex. That's awesome. Oppose the military-industrial. What does that mean? Basically cutting Pentagon spending. I actually think that we could realistically cut the Pentagon budget in half and still be the most powerful nation on earth. And then actually use that money, direct it towards things like free college or infrastructure. I think all of those are really, really important. Now, criminal justice is another thing that Senator Sanders, his platform, addresses, and it involves legalizing marijuana. Fantastic. Let's end the war on drugs and legalize marijuana federally. That's great. A lot of states have already started doing it, and these states are very, very successful. Look at Colorado, look at Washington, Michigan also just did it. I believe California also legalized marijuana. So yes, it is something that we should absolutely do. Now, abolishing private prisons. That goes hand in hand with, of course, ending the war on drugs. Because you end the war on drugs, you're not going to need private prisons anymore. And you never did, actually. You shouldn't privatize something like prisons. Why? Because you create an incentive in order to lock people up. So I think that's great. Coming out against private prisons, ending cash bail. That's something that's also incredibly popular. and incredibly progressive. And major police department reform. Now, I don't know what that means. I'd like to see what that looks like. So that needs to be fleshed out, of course, a lot more. But it sure looks like he has added to his criminal justice reform plan, which is fantastic. So now the corporate media, Republicans, right wingers, will be attacking these policy positions, which are actually, look, common sense. All this stuff, it adds up. The money makes sense. The funding is available. And in fact, a lot of these things will end up costing less than what we do right now in the case of healthcare. And look, you don't have to believe me. You can go look at Koch studies. There was a Koch-funded study that looked at this, and even they're like, yeah, it costs $2 trillion less per year. So what we spend right now is an insane amount, and we get nothing for it. So, and I think that happens a lot with corporate governance. When you get corporations to get involved with the government, and you have a profit motive attached to what should be public services, you're always going to pay more. And that's the unfortunate truth, which is why, of course, a lot of these things like healthcare and education should remain public. So, nonetheless, we're going to see cries of socialism. That's what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of that, sadly. But you know what? Bring it on. We're ready for those attacks because we know that we're on the side of the American people. These policy positions, they're not at the fringe left. They're actually at the real center of the country because you look at every single one of them, they have majority support. And so continue to try to defend corporate governance, corporations, and massive greed. See where it gets you. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.